Okay. So, namaste, good evening, good afternoon, and good morning. There may be some people locally as well. And a very happy Navratri to all of you. This is Himanshu from IDC Batch of 95, hosting this talk number 31. First, an announcement and a moment of prayer for one of our colleagues, and in fact, my batchmate, Kishore Chavan, who passed away a few days ago, and our sincere thoughts and prayers are with his family and loved ones. Now, a couple of points on the whole genesis of today's topic that may not be directly related to design. In the past, within this group, we have had many high energy discussions reflecting our eagerness to know more about what is Indian identity. And we discuss geography, culture, food, language, art, etc., etc. And in my view, we have at least agreed on one point that Indian identity is very diverse, and perhaps we can leave it at that. And today we have the privilege to hear a unique perspective on understanding what is Indian-ness from a renowned Sanskrit scholar and social worker, Dr. Sampadananda Mishra. Dr. Mishra is a professor at Rashtram School of Public Leadership, Rishihood University in Sonipat. And Dr. Mishra has spoken at various national and international forums on Sanskrit, Indian culture, yoga, and education. Dr. Mishra is a recipient of many awards, including those from the Government of India, Kendriya Sahitya Academy, Pandit Deen Dayal Upadhyay Recognition, and Maharshi Badarayana Vyasa Samman. So without further ado, I'll hand it over to Dr. Mishra and we'll save a few minutes toward the end for any questions and answers. Thank you.
Namaskar
Dr.
to
Mishra,
all of you.
all yours.
Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
So thank you for inviting me for this forum to share my ideas about what does it mean to be an Indian, or what does it mean Indian-ness. So this is a very important question, and we need to find out what are the real characteristics of Indian mind, or an Indian in a true sense. And sometimes this question also comes: is there something like Indian-ness? So especially when we are addressing to the young minds, so for them the whole idea of India sounds something like post-independence, and it's hard for them to think something beyond that. And there are several other questions and several other narratives which are formed knowingly, unknowingly, so which truly confuse the usual normal minds about what is Indian and what is not Indian. Um, Say, for example, we also lack the true vichara. The true vichara means, instead of just imitating, instead of just accepting what someone says, acceptance, of course, is a very good quality, but it has to be done with vichara. Someone may say that, hey, why don't you become European, or why don't you become Indian? Uh, so if the true vichar is there, then this vicharavan vyakti, who has the vichar, he will say that let me see what does it mean to be European, or what does it mean to be an Indian. Uh, so the ignorant mind will say, the ignorant mind which just wants to imitate things. So he would say that, okay, it looks good to be European, to be Western, because I don't see anything good in Indian. And or if someone says that, hey, why don't you become an Indian? And if the Vyakti is not Vicharvan, he can say that yes, it's good to be Indian, but the Vicharvan Vyakti will say, let me see what does it mean to be Indian. It may be that uh, what exactly is meant by Indian or how Indians are. It may be that Indians are not meant to be that. So let me check throughout the epochs, throughout the history, what uh, it meant to be Indian. And if we contemplate on questions like this, that what has been in the history, in the epoch, like how were our forefathers were, what did Indian-ness mean to them? So, how do we find the answer to this question? That is there something like Indian-ness? If it is there, then what exactly it means? So, what are the things that we need to take care to address to this question? The first thing, like if we contemplate on, and if we ask today many even educated or uneducated Indians to even name what uh, is the true name of this land, uh, what it was it a single name, was it did it have many names, and then what are the different references made to uh, this land. Many times there are confusion. Some people may be able to answer this question, some may not be, but like while preparing a little bit for this session today, I came across a mantra in the Rig Veda. So this mantra in the Rig Veda, and I can give you the reference. It is Mandala 10, 121, I mean 121 hymn, and mantra number 4, which says, Yasye me himavanto mahitva, Yasya samudram rasaya sahahu, Yasyemah pradisho bahu kasmai devaya havisha vidhema. Usually the Veda mantras are slightly difficult to dive deep into unless and until we understand the symbolism behind the words, unless and until we understand the Rishi consciousness. It's difficult to enter in of the Vedic mantras. But a very rough translation of this mantra will be something like this. Yasyeme himavanto mahitva. So whose greatness, on one side, we have the snow peaks, himavanto. And on another side, we have the samudra. We have the sea, the river waters, rasaya sahahyo. So then it says that the both arms of, because it is the India is seen as a person. He says whose both arms are both directions, the disha, and to this we offer our oblations, our salutations. Similarly, we have a beautiful verse in Vishnu Purana which says Uttaram yat samudrasya himadrischaiva dakshinam asham tad bharatam nama bharati yatra santati. So again, it is referring to the Samudra and the Himadri and Uttara and Dakshina and Bharati yatra santati. The children of this land, they are called Bharati, and the name of that land is Bharatavarsha. So there are different names which are found of this land, how it was called. In Bhagavata Purana, verse number 573, this land name was Ajanabha Varsha. Ajanabha Varsha. And in Vayu Purana, again, verse number 35, chapter number 35 and verse 52, which names this land, which mentions that Himavat Varsha, where Bhagavata Purana is calling it as Ajanabha Varsha, Vishnu Purana is calling it as Bharata Varsha, and here it is saying Himavat Varsha, and even the word Bharata Varsha is found in Markandeya Purana and Vayu Purana, where it refers to the great emperor Bharata, who was the grandson of Swayambhu Manu, as per the Vayu Purana and Markandeya Purana. But then in Mahabharata, we have this son of Dushyanta and Shakuntala, the Bharata. So he established this subcontinent, and then he performed many times Ashwamedha Yajna on the bank of Ganga and Yamuna. And then we have another words like Aryavarta, Jambudvipa. So these are two other names of the Bharatavarsha. See, geographically, India's boundaries have often been fluctuating. It's not the same. Although the great land between Himalayas and Indian Ocean, as we found mentioned in the Vishnu Purana and the Rig Veda, and there are plenty of other Puranas, Sthala Puranas, where we find the description, the geographical description. But it gives us a sense of unity of our dwelling. The land of our present, this present land of Bharatavarsha, which is the land of our births, land of our forefathers. It is the sacred land that we cherish, and for which many Indians, and this is how our forefathers, the rishis who lived in this land, they could feel, they could have a passion of belongingness. So when we are talking about Indian-ness, so the Indian, we also want to understand and then keep in mind this whole view of Indian culture, Indian civilization in mind when we are talking about Indian-ness. And Indian view of culture, in fact, we are using for convenience the word culture, but culture has a very different meaning than Samskriti. So there is a whole lot of difference between Samskriti and culture. And and when we are talking about Indian-ness, we need to keep that in mind, the whole Samskriti. Where does this view of Samskriti proceed from? And this is what we will find described in many Shastras, many Puranas, and in the writings of many patriots, writings of many spiritual masters, that this whole view of Samskriti for us, in a true sense, is not just some rituals, some customs, some costumes, some festivals, something which is fine. I mean, we need that. It is the outer expression of something that is inwardly there. But these externalities are not they may be culture, but it's not Samskriti. The whole view of Samskriti proceeds from a deeper spiritual vision of a nation. And in this perception of a nation, the nation, according to the rishis, the Rashtra, is not a unit occupying just a piece of earth. It's not just the geography, not just the mountains and rivers and lands, forests. It's not just a piece of earth, but a living organic being, a Shakti. And just like an individual, this is what we will find when we contemplate on the idea of a nation, the idea of Indian-ness. So I'm talking this because this whole idea of Indian-ness is rooted in the idea of nation. We need to understand that. We need to understand what is Samskriti, what is nation, what is Rashtra. So how is it viewed? How do we look at our own motherland? And then we will be able to find some answer to this question: what does it mean to be an Indian? Or what does Indian-ness mean? So, a true Indian is nation is just an individual. Like an individual has a body, has a physical being, has his emotional and sensational being, the vital being, his life force, the vital energy from which all creativity comes, all dynamism comes. Like the individual has his own mind, and like the individual has his soul. In the same way, the nation also, which is considered as a Shakti, as a force, as a living entity, as a living organic being, also has a body of its own, has its life force, has its vital being, has its mental being, has its deeper antaratman, the spiritual psychic being. And this is where we see that the first thing that the seers and sages, what they have given to us, that the nation is a great goddess, nation is a great Shakti, Bharat Shakti, Bhavani Bharati. And the religion, its philosophy, its science, its art, its literature, so all these form the mental being of this goddess, of the nation. So the religion of the nation, the philosophy of it, the science, art, literature, this is the mental being, the mind. Then we have the economic, the social, political activity, which is the real life force, without which its life cannot be sustained. Economic, social, political activities. This is the life force, the vital being of the nation. Then we have the ecology, the geography, its rivers, mountains, its natural environment, all the material resources, her people. These are, they constitute the physical being of this nation. And behind all this physical, vital, and mental, there is the soul of the nation, which is which is an aspect of the divine power of the universal spirit, the universal self. And this is what embodies the deepest spiritual self of the nation. And it is expressive of its unique genius, its purpose, its destiny in the evolution of humanity. the spirit of it, the soul of it. And Samskriti is the first, we can roughly, for convenience, call it culture, though there is a difference. So Samskriti is the very first and most direct expression of the mind and soul of the nation. In fact, the soul, the spirit of the nation, it expresses itself through the mind in its outer life. So we have the religion, it expresses itself through religion, through philosophy, through its art, literature, science. It is the expression of the inner being of the nation. Whereas we find its economy, its society, its polity, these are the expression of its vital energy. And its geography, ecology, which form her body, they constitute the external being of the nation. So while we attempt to understand the meaning and content of Indian-ness, what does it mean? Then we need to dive into the depths of Indian history and to discern those characteristics. We need to discern those characteristics which are unique to India, which bring us to that deeper understanding of the genius, of the spirit, of the soul of India. So therefore, the understanding of India's unique character is very much necessary for understanding what Indian-ness means. And if we look throughout the history of India, and this is what Sri Aurobindo, Swami Vivekananda, Sri Aurobindo, Rabindranath Tagore, and then many others, the real torchbearers, the spiritual masters, the guardians of this land. So this is what we understand by going through their writings, their vision of India. So Sri Aurobindo says that one needs to understand the four essential powers which have been developing since ages. When we look at India as a whole throughout the history, and then look at closely the history of its growth and development,
I think there's some network problem.
skills, the power of skills. Skills of what? Skills of art, craft, skills of emotional bonds, skills of durable relationship, skills of fruitful life and harmony. By skills, it doesn't mean as we understand the skills usually. So these are the four essential powers which we need to understand if we attempt to find out what truly is Indian-ness. And this is where we see that the master word, the master key of Indian-ness is spirituality. Spirituality is at the center. This word has to be then understood in its distinct clarity and in its fullness. What does spirituality mean? Although the word spiritual is associated with religion, with morality, with refinement of mental aesthetic sensitivity. But in a true sense, spirituality is all these, yet it transcends them all and it fulfills them all. And it as a kind of, how do you put it? It acts like a liberating or unifying, integrating power. This is what is the uh, power of spirituality, that it can liberate. And the important lessons that which we understand from this, what exactly is the characteristics of an Indian, or what is true Indianness, is that first, when we contemplate it from the spirituality point of view, we'll see that the spirituality, and when we contemplate on what the rishis have given to us, what we find in the Vedas, what we find in the Upanishads, what we find in our philosophical texts, what we find in our sacred texts, that the spirituality does not flourish on earth in the void. Spirituality does not flourish on earth in the void. The spirituality of which our rishis have spoken, that spirituality does not flourish in the void. That spirituality and the vibrance of life, the robust intellectuality, its creativity and its intellectuality, they are not opposed to each other. Rather, they are complementary to each other. That's what we understand when we go to the history of India and then see what enormous creativity that we find, what robust intellectuality we find. Yet at the basis, everything is founded on spirituality. And then that spiritual tendency that we call the spirituality, it does not imply inefficiency, or fruitfully. Because that's what many times people carry the mind, oh, hey, he's a spiritual person, so he just sits in meditation, he doesn't do anything, he's always like he's lost in himself. That's not the kind of spirituality which was encouraged in the ancient time. The spirituality here was contrary to this whole idea. It provided the highest basis for perfection of life on the earth. Because perfection was the very aim of life, very aim of education, very aim of the culture, the Samskriti, attainment of perfection at each level. When we see this robust intellectuality, we also see that for thousands of years, India was creating abundantly, lavishly. And it's not just one-sided creativity, it's multi-sided. It built republics, it built kingdoms, it built empires, it constructed philosophies, constructed cosmogonies. It developed sciences, arts, poems. It raised all kinds of monuments, palaces, temples, public works. It organized communities. It organized societies, religious orders, laws, codes, rituals. Systematized physical sciences, psychic sciences, systems of yoga, systems of politics, administration, arts, spiritual, arts, worldly, trades, industries, fine crafts, but not. Prolific creativity, prolific creativity. But then it declined. As in the history of its growth and development, we see this prolific creativity, robust intellectuality, deep spirituality at the basis. It also suffered from its age of decline, which continues. Therefore, when we are talking about what does it mean to be an Indian, what is Indian-ness? First of all, we see, as I mentioned before, that an Indian does not consider his nation as a stretch of geography or a concept, that he looks at the nation as a living divine power or great goddess, an aspect of the universal Shakti. So therefore, the idea of patriotism is to become more and more conscious of this divine soul of the nation, to adore her, to serve her as the mother, as the Bhavani Bharati. The Indian sees and aspires to uh, see in the geography of this nation the body of the mother. In the economic, social, political life of the nation, her vital force, her cultural uh, growth, her religion, art, literature, science, philosophy, her mind and soul. We have discussed these things as how that Devi, how that Shakti, with her physical, vital, mental, and spiritual being, is a living entity. So therefore, like the Indian has an inborn, this is another characteristic of Indian. The first thing is like he worships the nation. He doesn't consider the nation as a piece of earth. He considers, he respects it as a Devi. Then every Indian has an inborn intuition and shraddha in a spiritual reality beyond mind. And that is the ultimate aim of life, ultimate source of life, ultimate aim of life. And this intuition not necessarily it needs to manifest itself as a faith in God, but it expresses itself as a sincere quest for truth. On one side, we have the divinity. On another side, we have another characteristic is the quest for the truth, seeking the truth. And the Indian mind is never satisfied with the outer truth of law and process and phenomenon. It always aspires to go deep, find out the origin, the essence of things. So if he's a scientist, he's not satisfied with knowing the laws and processes of the outer form of the matter. He goes deep, his search continues further on the spiritual origin and essence of the matter. He wants to see the spirit manifesting in the matter. If he's a religious temperament, he has an instinctive faith in the divinity that is deep within, secret deep within. Angushtha matra purusha, madhyatmani tishtati. He searches for that divinity within rather than without. So, Kasturi Kundala Vase Mrugadhunda Vanamahi. So, he tries to find out that truth, that divinity, that light within oneself. He believes that the omnipresent divine can manifest in any outer form or symbol. So he doesn't hesitate to worship anything, trees, stones, anything, because he believes Ishavasyam idam sarvam. This is the very foundation. The first thing here is that everything belongs to the divine. In everything and being, the divine dwells. The divine has made a little home in everything and being for his living. And then when we contemplate on the religiosity, we see that the religious temperament is non-dogmatic and universal approach to the divine reality. We see that ekam sadvipra bahudha vadanti. The one reality, but expressed. It expresses itself in multiple forms. It is the same reality which becomes this multiplicity. It expands itself to become many. So the Indian religious mind, therefore, accepts everything, rejects nothing. It assimilates all that needs to be assimilated, all that is worth assimilating into itself. Wherever the truth has manifest, it makes a note of it and then pays respect to that truth, the manifestation of that truth. It doesn't have that kind of meanness. It believes in Udara Charitata. It makes sincere efforts to become free or transcend these binaries. I am Nija Paro Veti. That this is mine, this is someone else. This is this, that is that. He makes sincere effort to transcend dualities and these binaries. He makes sincere effort to become free from the separative ego sense which narrows down the consciousness. Therefore, the rishis, from their own experiences, who are the true role model before us, the living examples for us, or the epitome of what they taught, when we look at them, they were the Udara Charita. And it is in that, so our Samskriti is not just a Samskriti of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam is the parinam, the consequence. Consequence of what? Consequence of Udara Charitatva. Becoming free from all narrow sense of consciousness and then living in an expanded consciousness. This is the Samskriti that which does not believe in finality, like the science believes in finality, that there is a finality. which needs to be arrived at. But the human instrument is too limited to reach or attain to finality. But here, the rishis believed that there is no finality. It is all infinite. Perfection is like arriving at the peak of a mountain. Once we arrive at one peak, the other peak is visible. Therefore, the Veda says, Yat sanu sanu maruhat. Attaining to peaks after peaks. There is no end to perfection. There is no perfect perfection. It goes on, peaks after peaks, peaks after peaks. And there is no direct flight from one peak to other peak. One has to go through all the ups and downs, preparing oneself for the attainment of the next level of perfection. So to be Indian means to have Shraddha in these words of the rishis, the experiences of the rishis. So therefore, a true Indian, he truly feels the force, and then he says like, what exactly is the task before me? How do I serve this country, this nation? What should be my attitude as an Indian to be on this earth? And what is the greatest task that we need to undertake and we need to fulfill? Is there any answer to it? And very beautifully, this has been summarized. So with this, I think we will end and then go for the discussion and question answer. So Sri Aurobindo, in his Foundations of Indian Culture, so he says that there are 3 tasks that India must undertake, and every Indian, truly Indian, one who truly believes in this, he too feels the pressure for this. What is the task of an Indian, a true Indian, who carries that Indian-ness within himself? Sri Aurobindo says, the first and foremost task is to recover that old spiritual knowledge and experience in all its splendor, depth, and fullness. And this recovery will happen. It is not that it is there somewhere, you go read this text and then the spiritual force is recovered. It needs a self-discipline, a rigorous self-discipline. Accepting this challenge and putting into practice this rigorous self-discipline, and whoever has that strength and whoever has that intense aspiration to do that is, in a sense, truly Indian. The next task is, it is not enough just to recover the spiritual force and live it, yet one has to allow that spiritual flow, that force to flow into new forms of philosophy, new forms of literature, new forms of art, new forms of science, new forms of critical thinking, critical knowledge. It is not the same old. Because there is a whole section of people who believe that old, it's good because it's old. Or another section of people feel that, oh, it's new, it's good because it's new. But the Vicharavan, that Vivekavan, Bharatiya, a Rishi, he will not say that. Old is not good just because it is old. New is not good just because it is new. Purana mityevana sadhu sarvam, Kalidasa says. Nachapi kavyam navamitya vadyam. Santah pariksha anyatarad bhajante. Mudha parapratyaya neya buddhi. That viveka has to be there. That vichara has to be there. What needs to be accepted? So, Sanatana Setu has to be built between Nutana and Puratana, between the old and new. This is where we find all our spiritual masters were that Setu, that Sanatana Setu, bridging the gap, linking the old with the new. So past must be used as, because we should not neglect the past or forget the past, but past must be used as the foundation. It can be used as a springboard to leap towards the bright future. This is the aspiration that a true Indian carries, and he feels the pressure for this. And then Sri Aurobindo says that an original dealing with modern problems in the light of Indian spirit and the endeavor to formulate a greater synthesis of spiritualized society. And then he says that the success on these three lines will be the measure of its help to future of humanity. If the Indians start living the true life of an Indian, understand the true meaning of Indian-ness, start living it, then only they can contribute substantially money. That's what depends much on the destiny of India. Dhanyavad. So I will end my deliberation on this note, and then if there are questions, so I will address to that.
Thank you, Dr. Mishra. We'll take some questions now. I believe in chat window we do have at least one question from Venus Design. How can we make people of other religions believe in these definitions as you're taking them from Hindu scriptures? And I just wanted to add one point there. I also had a question. Uh, the concept of dharma and religion, they are sometimes mixed, and that causes a lot of confusion. So if you can give your perspective and relate to this question as well.
Yeah, sure. So this is a very, very important point, that the whole idea of dharma. So dharma is, now it is defined in various ways, in various places, in various contexts. It doesn't have one single meaning. We do say dharana to dharma, but what it is which really sustains us or becomes that sustainable or strength in us, which maintains us, which sustains us, which holds us from within. Dharma is all that which brings harmony, all that which brings peace, all that which creates the sense of beauty, all that which unites, all that which brings light, all that which brings wisdom, clear understanding, all that which helps us moving forwards. In a simple way, I understand dharma is this. And all that is opposed to it, all that creates disharmony at the individual level and the collective level, all that which creates ugliness, all that which leads to us darkness, all that which creates chaos, unpeaceful situation, is not dharma. And when we have the light within, when we have the harmony within, when we have the beauty within, when we have that ekatva and samatva within, that oneness and unity, because all these are dharma, then where we have the real strength, which sustains us from within, saves us from all dangers. All that which helps us to liberate us from the narrowness of our consciousness. Because it is the narrowness of consciousness which is the root cause of all our problems. The moment we become affected by this narrowness, we lose our sense of right and wrong, dharma and adharma, kartavya and akartavya. That is what Arjuna says, that karpanya dosho pahatas svabhava pruchhami tvam dharma sammuda cheta. That I'm so affected by this karpanya dosha, this miserliness, this narrowness of my consciousness, that I have lost the memory of myself. I do not know what dharma is, what adharma is. Please guide me. Tell me decisively what needs to be done. So dharma is which unifies, which brings more harmony in the society, brings more beauty, more peace, more ananda. And how do the people of other religious community, this is what was the question, because I'm unable to open the chat box. I don't know why. So, how does the other religion
believe in these definitions as you were
yeah,
talking?
believe in definition? It's very hard to expect even from other religious communities to believe in us. So because there are fundamental differences between the Abrahamic religion and the Sanatana Dharma. If it is the idea of God, if it is the idea of Shastra, if it is the idea of organization, institution, there are fundamental differences. Whereas Sanatana Dharma believes not in one but many. Ekam sat bahudha viprabadanti. Because he is omnipotent, he can manifest in any form. If it was not the case, if he was alone, so he proves himself to be impotent, that he can't become many. He is just one. He doesn't have that potency to multiply himself. We do not believe in one Shastra. For us, the Shastras evolve and develop. There are many Shastras. Each individual can have its own Shastra. And the ultimate Shastra, the Shastra itself says that the Shastra is not just the printed book. The real Shastra is within. Kabir Das never went to study anything anywhere in any school. He was unpad. Yet he was respected even by the greatest of the scholars of that time, Nayayikas, Vyakarana, Mimamsakas, Alankarikas. And his simple answer to anyone who came to argue with him about God, about Shastra, about anything, his simple answer was, "Tu kehta kagaz ki lekhi, main kehta aankhan ki dekhi." That you say what you have studied in few papers, what is written, what is printed. I say what I have seen in my eyes. I say what I have realized. This is the Samskriti of Upalabdhi, Samskriti of Anubhuti, Samskriti of Drishti, Samskriti of Shruti, Samskriti of Viveka, Samskriti of Vichara. If all these things are taken out, then there is no Indian-ness. There was another question which popped off, but can someone read out to me?
Yeah, the next question is, thanks for the wonderful talk. The discipline to internalize the spirit of land, connected, connecting to its past glories, to current realities is the need. Can you please share any examples of collective work which can be referred to so that we can learn from it?
Can you read it again little loud, because the sound is also no, I'm not getting proper.
Yeah, so Kiran is asking for any examples of collective work that we can learn from if you can give any recommendations of any books or any resources
For understanding
on this topic.
on this topic. Okay, okay. See, the best book will be like if you can spend some time, and those Sri Aurobindo is hard to understand. Sometimes his language is tough. Yet the foundations of Indian culture will be a very good book. And sometimes like you can go to kiritjoshi.in, kiritjoshi.in. So all the books by Kirit Joshi ji on Indian culture, on the Veda, they're fabulous books. You can read his books. No, no, KIREET, Kirit Joshi.in. KIREET, Kirit Joshi.in. So you will find a lot of materials in the light of Sri Aurobindo, in the light of Sanatana Dharma he has written. So one can begin with that. There's also like another beautiful book by Osho. Though I don't read much of Osho, but that one book had captivated me like anything. I've read it many times. India, My Love. Very beautifully written book. Yeah.
There was one more comment. Is Indianness rooted in living a life with a quest for truth, faith in the ancient wisdom of this land, of one's existence, and exploring one's inner world and attaining moksha?
Yeah, the quest for truth was something very very fundamental to this land, to the rishis. And when we go to the Upanishads and the Veda, we will find that every Upanishadic seer had a deep question and approached the gurus like Prapya Varan Nibodhata, find out the great ones and then understand from them. So every disciple, every seeker went with some deep questions. Even in fact, I made a compilation of around 350 questions from the Upanishads. That these are the type of questions which they asked. What type of questions? So what is life? What is death? Who am I? Uh, what happens beyond death? Like the question which asked by Nachiketa, or you see in the Prashnopanishad, like how these young seekers, they go to Pippalada and ask how Narad goes to Sanat Kumar, how Shvetaketu goes to Pravahana, Uddalaka goes to Pravahana. Throughout, I mean, the questions which were asked to Yajnavalkya in the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. So the question that Satyakama asked to his disciples and his guru. So every question, if we analyze, we see that what kind of quest for the truth they carried. That's what built the foundation of this culture, this Samskriti, the foundation of our Sabhyata. So somewhere we have forgotten that quest in us. We need to arouse that inquisitiveness within us. So then that quest arises for the truth.
Thank you. We have a question, Ganesh Gaikwad. Please go ahead. You can ask the question.
Okay, thank you, Nimesh. Sir, forgive me because I have lost a few minutes earlier, and a lot of the profound things that you explained and narrated for us today were really the great ideas from our culture and what is called Indianness. But as an objective observer of the culture, are there any problematic areas or issues that you see in Indian culture? Because all we have listened to, at least since when I joined, is a praise for Indian culture. But are there any things which needs to be changed, and are there any things which are not so great and we should avoid from our past? or culture, or is there everything that is there all great only? I mean, this is the question I had. And there are things which I sometimes think about, which are very problematic in our culture. So, your comment on that, please. Thank you.
Yeah. See, if everything was great, then there would not have been any problem also. And no culture, no civilization is free from challenges. Every society, every civilization had its own challenges. But the greatness lies in the fact that how did the people collectively managed to face that challenge and then brought solutions to it. So all the solutions, all the greatness that we are speaking about is that these are the keys, these are the forces by which they managed to overcome all the challenges. So the more we speak of the greatness, it refers to the more challenges. It doesn't speak that we were great just because because these are our greatness. So more greatness, I understand in this way that more were the challenges and more sincerity we put forth, and it also shows that how sincere we were in bringing a lasting solution to our problems. Yet in the evolutionary journey, greater challenges will come before us, and this greatness what we are singing today, someone may say, or we can say that it is just singing glories, but for me these are the resourceful materials which help us building greater foundation than the previous, so then we can be ready to face the greater challenges which are awaiting us. I don't say that there were no challenges, no mistakes.
Okay, thank you, sir.
There's a follow-up question, and I think after this we'll take maybe one or two more because we are right on time, a few minutes over. So if we cannot explain these definitions to someone who is not a believer in Hinduism, why cannot we go to the definitions which are more universal and speak the language of nature? That's a comment.
Sorry, can you repeat once again?
So if we cannot explain these definitions to someone who is not a believer in Hinduism, why can't we go to the definition which are universal and speak the language of nature to explain the
Yeah.
idea of Indian-ness?
First thing is that is it necessary to make someone believe? I don't. It should not be any imposition. It should be an open ground where let people accept it naturally without feeling imposed. And today, if you see whether we look at our society, our education system, and everything is an imposition. So I don't feel that it is necessary to make others believe in. Then that very idea of making someone believe in me is also not dharmic.
Mhm.
I have to live that and become that. Then that will be more impactful. One sets examples. That is why this is a Sanskrit of Shreshthas, Aryas. This is what is the definition of the Shreshthas, those who lived that life of nobility, a noble life. They lived that. Their life was the example. Their life was the teaching. They didn't have to go and teach others. They didn't become attracted to us, that they became centers. That is the power of spirituality. That is the power of truth. That is the power of Dharma. That it doesn't have to go door to door. Let's say them that, hey, like I have something, you must buy it.
Yeah, thank you for that perspective. Nimish, do you have any comments, any questions? Anybody else?
Yeah, I think this talk was more of an appetizer, and I think Dr. Mishra was just getting started, and we had to kind of cut it at at 50 minutes. But yes, so it was just to add a comment. Good to see that you said that Indianness is not the bound by the current political boundary. I mean, usually we associate Indianness to the political boundary of India, but I think like you said, there is a lot of I think we all have to realize that there's a lot of shared heritage, and Indianness as such is not a static thing that is like 5,000 years old. It's a constantly evolving, changing, living thing. And if we can all realize that, I think that would be great. Just my perspective.
Yeah, beautiful.
And when we say Indianness, it's not, again, it becomes very abstract. But through our Indianness, if we can look at Guru Nanak, and we can look at Mahavir, and we can look at Buddha, and we can look at the Taj Mahal, and we can all say that this is all Indian, then I think we are doing good. But if we can't, then maybe there's something lacking within us.
True. That's what is the beauty of this. Like wherever it found the truth has manifest, so it assimilated it. So it took Buddha as an avatar and then worshipped it, because he found that he is preaching some truth. He was a seeker of the truth. So everyone is accepted here, whoever had the truth in it, who lived that truth. And as you said, like to say, it is not something static of let's become the past. So that's what I was addressing to some of my students today. I said, like it's not about going back to the root. What is important is to be rooted.
Makes sense.
The more we are rooted, more we can grow widely and vertically and horizontally. So we need to spread the roots. This is not going back to the root, but to be rooted, to be grounded.
I think we have one last question from Vijendra. Vijendra, go ahead.
Thank you so much. Thank you. You're able to hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
All right. Thank you so much. This is the first time I have joined this, probably this kind of a lecture series, although I have been active in some of the other forums. And it was forwarded to me by one of my high school friends at the last minute. And I thought it should be very interesting and join. And let me say that, I don't definitely regret the time I spent here. It's a great initiative. And Nimish, as a follow-up to this symposium or a lecture series what we had today, would it be possible for you folks to organize some of the follow-ups, either maybe by the gentleman who delivered the whole thing today, right, some Mr. Sampadananda, or any of the other scholars, right, who can give different perspectives of what they look at as Bharatiyam or Indian-ness, the way we can look at it, different perspectives. It could be in terms of art, it could be in terms of culture, it could be in terms of religion, or it could be in terms of philosophy. There are so many things there. So, I mean, that I think would be a really great initiative.
Sir Vijender, I think good comment. And we are looking for volunteers to work with us. So please send us your coordinates and we can do something.
Sure. And how do I get in touch with you? I mean, because this came to me through a WhatsApp notification through one of my classmates. So, I mean, how do
just
we
get in touch? I think just get in touch with the classmate and we'll then get in touch.
Okay, because I think for him also, I think he got a forwarded message, so I'm not too sure.
Yeah, but just in the context of this lecture, we'll kind of get in touch with you, but we might want to just close it. So Himanshu, over to you.
Yeah. So Vijendra, I think you will find the details if you just trace back where you got it from, and very good idea. And Nimish, just to let you know, I was still planning to do more such lectures, and I've reached out to some more commentators who have known views. Either they're not centered, but could be either left or right. And we should have those in future, but we cannot comment or commit on a time frame. I think Achyuta has a question, and that should be the last one for this call, and then we will wrap up the call for today.
No, Achutaji's was only a comment. So
yeah, I'm just very interesting eye opener. I think because going to the roots of what is Indian-ness. Indian-ness has been always a topic of discussion in all design schools. So we are, I think, touching only the external characteristics. I think Dr. Mishra has touched the internal characteristics, which is very, very, I think, missing. So probably you will have more sessions either from him or somebody else on each of these topics, as Vijayananda said. It could be, like just art can be one form, in Indian-ness on art or Indian-ness on the, commerce. Even commerce also, there could be some parts. So I think that will be very great for future section. Excellent. I mean, at least it was an eye-opener for me. Thank you so much, Dr. Mishra. Yeah.
All right. I think there is a chat window just saying thank you. So, all right, we are at the end of the program now, and we truly appreciate your time. Dr. Mishra, thank you very much for making it happen to us, and hopefully we'll see you at some point again. Thank you, IDC alumni, and thank you, Nimish, for encouraging this topic.
Thank you. Bye.